Welcome, all of you football fans, to the GSMC Football Podcast. I'm your host, as always, Jeff Malinoff. With me is my partner in crime, Mark Souza. We got a lot to talk about in the world of football today. We got the firing of Raiders general manager Reggie McKenzie, as well as the Monday Night Football game, I guess, question mark, between the Minnesota Vikings and the Seattle Seahawks, excuse me. And also we have a little bit of firing due to that game also. We'll get more on that in a second. And also we have some thought about who is the better option for a head coach, the Green Bay Packers or the Cleveland Browns, and other news and quirks and other notes we need to discuss in the final segment as always. So let's get right into it. General Manager Reggie McKenzie of the Oakland Raiders, who was the one that drafted Khalil Mack and Amari Cooper and Derek Carr, has been fired by the Oakland Raiders, and no surprise to a lot of people, because as soon as John Gruden got that contract, 10 years, $100 million, as well as a stake in ownership, he was as good as gone at that moment, don't you think?
Absolutely. The moment that John Gruden signed a $100 million 10-year contract, it was only a matter of time for Reggie McKenzie. I think this was the most obvious next step in the rebuild for the Oakland Raiders. I actually think it was more obvious than the trades that they made this year, but especially after those trades, you got to think that they'd go back to the drawing board when it comes to what exactly is the general manager's role in this whole thing, right?
Yeah. And the fact that, well, the team was not looking good for a long period of time. He drafted those. He did draft some busts also. We can't forget that. Khalil Mack and Amari Cooper and Derek Carr weren't his only draft picks, but those were his franchise-setting picks for sure. And as soon as Gruden got rid of Mack and then he got rid of Cooper, basically McKenzie's work was being undone right before his eyes, and he could do nothing about it.
Absolutely. So the writing was on the wall from day one of Gruden coming back. I mean, it's one of those it's funny to talk about. I mean, it's like you have a general manager there that's already in place, then you go get the coach. So everybody kind of saw this coming. It sounds like, though, based on what you believe, that John Gruden had no idea that this was coming. Jeff, your thoughts about that?
Can I get a liar for $300?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, like it's a reference to Jeopardy, and we all know he was. What is a liar, Alex? Basically, is what I was trying to say. But yeah, he absolutely knew this was happening. Like he says, he has no. He came as a shock to him. He said he was connected with Reggie McKenzie, and I think he was trying to put on a good face, but in reality, Reggie McKenzie was kind of pushed out as soon as Gruden got there, and it was only a matter of time. It actually happened a lot later than I thought it was going to happen. I thought it was going to happen like the first couple of weeks into the season, because we all knew this season was going to be a rebuilding year as soon as he traded Mack. And then as soon as Cooper came, it's like, okay, now we know what's really going on. He's really trying to get rid of all these guys and trying to make his own team, make it as his own team. And what I mean by own team, I mean more the long lines of like, every guy that's going to be on this team, it's going to be, I brought him in, I signed him, I drafted him, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's see. Gruden makes McKenzie get rid of their best players for draft picks so they can start over, and then he fires him. That's kind of mean, don't you think?
It was more along the lines of like, we expected that, though. We expected some sort of mutiny to happen between these two. And we all knew it's like if it was going to be a battle for power, that it would be Gruden that wins, because why would you give a guy a 10-year contract if you expected him to do something right away? We all knew this was a rebuilding phase, so it was bound. This was all going to happen sooner or later, and basically everyone expected this to happen, and it did.
Yeah, I don't see a problem here. I mean, if you hired me to be the coach and gave me that contract, I would want to bring in my own guys too. The problem here is that now John Gruden will have complete control of this roster and also coach. And I'm not sure that he's worthy of that. I don't think that he has earned that. Has he won a Super Bowl? He has.
With the not with the Oakland Raiders, though.
But was he a successful coach and general manager? He was not. When he was with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they won his first year there. He coached another man's team. Did he get the most out of that team? Absolutely. And for that, he should be given credit. However, his record as a Buccaneers coach was under 500 after that first season with the Bucs. He finishes 57-55 as head coach and general manager of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That is slightly better than 500. Again, you don't really take that first season in regards to his personnel decisions because the team was basically set up already. Now, is this the man that you're going to trust with making the decisions, the personnel decisions, with the future of the Oakland/Las Vegas Raiders? I'm just not so sure. He had, let's see, this is John Gruden as a general manager. You ready for some stats here?
I'm ready.
Gruden made 61 draft picks in 7 seasons. Only 3 players became Pro Bowlers. These are the 3 players: Davin Joseph, Jeremy Zutah, and Aqib Talib. One of them was an All-Pro player, and that is Aqib Talib. And one of them was only a Pro Bowler in Tampa Bay. So the other 2 were not Pro Bowlers in Tampa Bay. They were Pro Bowlers in their career. So, I don't know, man. He doesn't have the best draft record. That was over 6 seasons of drafting. Actually, 7, excuse me. So, man.
Well, there's a reason they never went back to a Super Bowl after that.
Exactly. They had a couple 9-7 seasons. They had a few seasons under 500. But again, even if you give him credit for that first year, he had a 57-55 record as head coach and GM. He only won a playoff game in one of those seasons, one of 7 seasons. That was the Super Bowl run. They won the Super Bowl that year. But that team continuously went downhill and then ended mediocre when he left. He never identified a franchise quarterback after Brad Johnson. And that's eye-opening.
Brad Johnson.
That's eye-opening for me, right? Like, he's a quarterback guru, quote-unquote. He's an offensive genius, quote-unquote. But in his time in Tampa Bay, he never identified a good quarterback. That is a problem.
When your quarterback, when you want to Super Bowl with, is Brad Johnson, that's saying something. How good your other players were around him.
So where am I going at with this? He might be overrated as a general manager. In fact, you would be hard-pressed to argue otherwise. And I think that the Raiders do need a dissenting point of view. I think in times like this, even if the coach is great, you need to have a couple different minds in the room, a couple different ideas, different opinions thrown around back and forth, right? Because
different options.
Yeah, because we all know if you hire, like in business, Jeff, if you hire a bunch of yes men, you're not going to improve. You need people to challenge your point of view.
Tell that's the WWE.
You need people to challenge your thought process. If you say, hey, I think this quarterback is good because of X, Y, and Z, I can say, you know what, Jeff? I see what you see in that. Like, I see your point. But I think that this quarterback might be better because of X, Y, and Z. And I think that ultimately it helps you. Do you make the right decisions every time? No, but it sparks conversation, right? It sparks information. And I don't think that Gruden has built up the credibility like a Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick runs personnel in New England because he's Bill Belichick. Everything he's done has turned to gold since he's been in the league, right? Except for that 1 year in Cleveland. But regardless, nobody wins in Cleveland.
Except if you're the opposite of Hugh Jackson.
Although, in our third segment today, we will talk about which job is better, the Browns or the Packers. Me and Jeff will fight to the death talking about that.
Wait. Fight to the death.
No, just argue about it. We'll pick sides. Segment 2, we'll talk about that Monday Night Football game, of course, last night. But, Jeff, any other thoughts about – let's talk about the press conference yesterday. We're already talking about Gruden, his past, if he will be a good GM or not. But wasn't that a bizarre press conference?
It was disingenuous. It felt like, is that the right word to use? Disingenuous.
Yes, because he talked like everybody was dumb, like everybody in the room didn't know what was going on.
He was trying to control the media. I think that was one of the key things in that. He was trying to come off as the good guy, but in reality, he was the bad guy in this whole situation.
He made comments yesterday saying that he had no idea that this was happening. Do you believe that for a second?
No, not maybe a millisecond, but that's
You're
about
telling
it.
me your $100 million coach wasn't in on this?
Yeah.
Wasn't in on this conversation? Yeah.
10-year,
right.
$10-year, $100 million. He's going to hear everything, even if it's like a joke. Like, even if it's like two guys in the background.
You gave the dude $100 million. You're making decisions with him involved, period. Doesn't matter if he's going to be the one making the decision, but he's going to be a part of that conversation.
It's everything that happens in the Raiders organization, John Gruden is going to know about it regardless of the importance. Especially if it's an importance of firing a general manager. And yes, we were talking, and you were discussing how he was not talking about replacing a general manager, more looking for an executive. Which is completely different.
Yeah, I mean, GM is technically an executive, but he didn't say a general manager. So
he's
I'm
basically
with you 100%.
Well, he's basically the general manager. Let's get that perfectly honest.
Right.
As soon as he got the job, he got a stake in ownership in the contract. So it's like saying, "Hey, you're going to be our general manager for the next 10 years, also." Oh yeah, what about Reggie McKenzie? Don't worry about him. We'll be gone before you know it. And before you know it, he's gone. So that's just how life works in the NFL nowadays, I guess.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I just think that his press conference was a little wild to me. Like he acted like him and McKenzie are
best friends. Best friends. It sounded like he was like quote unquote connected, and he got along with him great and all this stuff. But really, that's totally complete BS.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't buy it for a second. I don't know if anyone buys it for a second.
I think the Raiders were waiting until they won, honestly, their next game until they pulled this. Like, they wanted to
try to sweep it under the rug.
So, yeah, bury this underneath a big win. John Gruden's biggest win.
Hey, look, we won. What's this about a GM fire? Look, we beat those Steelers. Look at this. Look at that.
It was the biggest win since Gruden's been back, right?
What I mean, it's only been 3 wins, so it's not a good list of
how
many.
They waited until second half of the year. Good win. Yeah. So when Gruden says we won last night, I went home. Obviously, there was a meeting last night and changes have been made. I can't exactly answer why the change was made last night, but changes were made. Again, disingenuous to me. He talked about McKenzie being a good friend of his.
Again,
blah, blah, blah.
I don't believe that.
And then we hear that McKenzie was offered the opportunity to stay till the end of the season, which that's weird. If you're letting him go, why would you even want him in the building?
Yeah, it's like when you break up with someone, you could still hang out with hold my hand for a couple more weeks, but after that we're going to be done. So
yeah, let's start the draft process with this general manager who won't be here in the next month. That's not real.
And listen to him. Oh, quote unquote, listen to him. Because they're obviously not going to listen to him.
Look, why can't he just be honest? Just say, hey, look, I have a 10-year plan. I have a 10-year contract, and things are going to start from ground zero because I have the biggest contract in NFL history when it comes to coaching. No one's ever been given a 10-year plan. I'm given a decade to get this as perfect as possible.
Well, let me ask you a question. In the movie Chucky, did he automatically reveal himself as evil and started killing people? No. He hid for a little bit.
I see the Chucky reference here.
He pretended to be a doll for a long period of time, and then at the end, when no one was looking, he struck. That's basically what's happened here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was probably the best reference to a movie compared to a coach ever in a history of podcasts. I am retiring from podcast. I'm dropping the mic right now. I'm done. Out of here. Nothing will top that.
Anyway. So
Bye.
Let's see. I mean, look, I watch a lot of press conferences. I know that's boring, but I haven't seen too many that happened that were like that, where it's like, come on, man, everybody in the room.
And he also kept saying, like, can we talk about the game and not this firing?
I think some people.
He always tried to get it off topic.
I think some people, some reporters, some journalists need to ask him some real questions too. Like, enough with these layups. Like, get down to it, man. Like, you need to ask these questions. Like, how were you not aware? Like, how can you tell people here that you were not aware of if there was going to be a shuffling of the front office? You know that you were. So,
I don't know. It felt, this whole conference felt suspicious to me. It didn't feel right. It felt wrong. I don't know how to explain it. It just felt something was off.
Yeah, I think the Raiders need a strong general manager to pair with John Gruden, but I don't think they're going to get that. So I don't see good things happening for this franchise, because you have a guy who doesn't have a good track record of drafting players, and now he's the only one in the room that has control. He's the only one in the room that has a voice. And this next draft for the Raiders will determine if they're good in the next 2 or 3 years. It will absolutely determine it. They lost a star edge rusher and a star wide receiver. Their 2 best players on the team are gone. They need to hit home runs with 2 out of these 3 first-round picks. And guess what? 2 of those first-round picks are now picks that are in the 20s. You thought when you made those trades that 1 or 2 might be in the top 15, maybe even in the top 10. You certainly didn't see the Bears winning their division. And the Cowboys had some problems when they made that trade. So at the time, the Cowboys pick was a top 15 pick. Now both of those teams are getting better and better. They're going to make the playoffs. And those picks will definitely be 20 or later. Absolutely. Probably 23 or 24 or later. So it is what it is. Regardless, they need to hit on these picks. If they don't, it could be a long few years in Oakland. And Mark Davis might be staring at a situation in 4 or 5 years where he has his coach with a huge contract and the results aren't there.
Yeah, this was all a power play move. We all know it. This was going to happen. It was bound to happen, like we said. So it was a foregone conclusion, and that's just where the cookie crumbles.
Mm-hmm. So I think we should take a break. But before that, I think I have a good recommendation for Reggie McKenzie. Since he's out of a job right now, he's got to probably tighten up his resume. And after that, what happens? You get an interview. And when you go to a job interview, you got to look good. You got to tighten it up. You got to clean it up, guys. And what can be that product for you? Harry's. What is Harry's? Harry's is your solution to your shaving needs. Harry's makes a long-lasting quality product at a super reasonable price. As a special offer for fans of this show, we've partnered with Harry's to give you $5 off any shave set, including our limited edition holiday sets, when you go to harrys.com/GSMC football. Plus, you'll get free shipping. This offer is for new and returning customers, and it's only available for the holidays. Each Harry shave set comes with an ergonomic weighted handle, German-engineered 5-blade cartridges that provide a close, comfortable shave, foaming shave gel for a rich lather, a travel cover to protect your blades, and it comes in a nice, handsome holiday gift box. You just want something for yourself these holidays? Redeem a Harry's trial offer to experience the quality of shave before committing. Get your holiday shopping done early, folks. Free shipping ends on December 12th, so act now. Go to harrys.com/GSMC football to get $5 off any shave set while supplies last. That's harrys.com/GSMC football.
What happens to your decision-making when you drink? Well, after one drink, you feel confident. A few more, and calling your ex at 1 a.m. seems like a great idea. And you're pretty sure the secret to a great taco is 4-day-old macaroni. The bottom line, drunk you doesn't make great decisions. So you're risking a DUI or worse if you count on him to get you home. Plan before you party. Get home safe. Brought to
And welcome back to the GSMC Football Podcast. We just talked about Reggie McKenzie and the Oakland Raiders and their unfortunate divorce. We will move on to Monday Night Football.
It was more of like they split up because of an affair.
We will move on. Yeah, I guess so. Gruden was the other woman. We'll move on to Monday Night Football. Again, next segment, we're going to talk Browns or Packers, which is the better job if you're looking for a head coaching position. But, Jeff, did you hear about a man who spent $4,000 on a giant statue to give his entire town the middle finger?
That is probably the greatest news story I've ever heard of.
A man in Westford, Vermont decided to retaliate against his enemies in the most hilarious way. So he wanted to build an 8,000 square foot garage. They wouldn't allow him. He decided that he would give his whole town the middle finger. So he built this incredibly huge statue. And now the entire town can hear his opinion every single day. God, that's awesome.
And they didn't complain about that?
Yeah. Speaking of opinions, what was your opinion of last night's Monday Night Football game?
Good segue. It was boring.
Yeah, right?
Not a lot happened. It was 21-7, but it was honestly going to be like 21-0 because of the garbage touchdown Minnesota made at the last seconds. It was really pointless, to be completely honest with you. So.
Very, very underwhelming. I was expecting a better football game, to be quite honest with you. I thought, I kind of thought, even though the Vikings have been struggling, that this might be a game where they could break out of it. Like, it would be a tough game, tough environment, but like a prove-it game for them. But I was wrong. I was absolutely wrong.
Yeah, we thought like 28-24 and 30-28 and all these goal-scoring games. We both were dead wrong about how close and how competitive this game was going to be because it felt like it was all Seahawks.
It was a snooze fest. The Seahawks barely threw the football. They ran the ball 42 times.
Russell Westbrook threw it 20 times. Russell Wilson threw it 20 times.
I get them confused all the time.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Okay,
Russell
so it's
Wilson.
not just me.
Say it fast, too. Say both names in a
Russell
row.
Wilson, Russell Westbrook, Russell Wilson, Russell
Say Russell Westbrook.
Russell Westbrook, Russell Wilson, Russell
Yeah.
Westbrook, Russell Wilson, Russell Westbrook, Russell Wilson. Wow.
Yeah. Anyways, before people turn this thing off.
Too late.
Kirk Cousins, 20 of 33. He got a meaningless touchdown. His stats, 208 yards. They looked okay, but really they were terrible. That last drive let him pat his stats a little bit. Yeah, man. Something's going on in Minnesota. Adam Thielen was caught on a hot mic yesterday. Not too happy with Mr. Kirk Cousins. He was the prize free agent signing. But before we move to Kirk Cousins, let's talk about the Seahawks for a minute. They win, though. They win comfortably. They win ugly, but they win, Jeff. And now they play the 49ers this week. They play the Cardinals left. It's looking like they're going to win at least 10 games. They're probably going to win 11 games. They're sitting at 8-5 right now. What's your take on them? They'll win 10. They play the Chiefs. They play
the Chiefs.
Yeah, they play the Niners. They play the Chiefs at home, though. They could actually win that game. And then they play the Cardinals 10 this season. So they're going to win 10 games at least.
Yeah, they did. They have that home field advantage still, which is still one of the toughest places to play in the league.
They won't have it in the playoffs, though.
That's, I think, what's going to be the death of them.
Yeah.
That's what's going to be their downfall.
As of right now, it's looking like they will play either the Bears or the Cowboys because they're going to play one of those two division winners. Most likely the Cowboys, if I had to guess. Although, it could absolutely be the Bears. They play the Vikings play the Bears this week, actually, so that will be interesting. But do you see Seattle being able to beat the Cowboys or the Bears on the road? I think they could beat the Cowboys on the road.
But the Cowboys are on a kind of on a streak right now, kind of a lot of momentum on their side, so it's going to be a tough one. It's not going to be easy for sure.
They could win both of those games. Because Russell Wilson, I would take him over Dak and Trubisky every time. We can argue about the defenses with those teams being better than Seattle's, and I would agree with that. But we all know that, if you have the better quarterback, you have a good chance. Even if the, surrounding cast isn't as good as your opponent. Russell Wilson has played in a lot of big games. Mitch Trubisky has not. Dak Prescott, not really. Not too many. And Russell Wilson's a Super Bowl champion. Those two quarterbacks are still searching for their first Super Bowl. Seattle has surprised me this year. They're a well-coached team. That's not surprising. But they've been able to navigate around injuries, lack of talent. The Legion of Boom is no longer, but the defense has still been pretty good. Maybe not as dominant as years past, maybe in those Super Bowl runs where they had one of the most incredible defenses for a few years, but it's still a top defense. It's still one of the better ones in the NFL.
Yeah, definitely. And without question, this team is still one of the best teams in the NFL. I think we can both agree on that.
Yeah, and easily one of the top 5 in the NFC. I mean, they've distanced themselves from like the rest of the pack.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, just it's one of those things where like defense is really showing up in the NFL now, like the Bears, for example, and all that.
It's definitely a week of defense. Like the defense, we've talked about some NFL records this year and how offense has just been going nuts. Remember the Chiefs-Rams Monday night game a couple weeks ago? That was like an offensive explosion.
Yes.
But it's like the defense strikes back, That's like the sequel movie, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah, definitely. I agree with you.
It's like Star Wars, the defense strikes back. Anyways, we got to talk about the Vikings, though, man. What's going on? Like, them and the Eagles, what is going on with their seasons? They're so hard to, like, figure out. We're talking about two teams, one that won the Super Bowl, one that almost got to the Super Bowl, and both teams have just fell flat this year. I think everybody expected these two teams to win their divisions, respectively, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's one of those things where, in the fact, like, maybe Kirk Cousins isn't the guy we all thought he was, because his record...
Carson Wentz?
Or Carson Wentz, for that matter. And what the fact of the matter is that, like, when you look at Kirk Cousins' record, like, in primetime...
You actually have a really good stat about him versus...
I do.
Winning teams in his career.
And
it's been very
just
underwhelming.
In winning record, and by the way, he's also 0-7 on Monday Night Football. 0-7. That's not something you want to do when you're on primetime television and look bad. But he's 4 wins, 24 losses against teams with a winning record. And yet, he convinced the Vikings to give him $84 million fully guaranteed contract.
Yeah.
And his career...
Fully guaranteed, by the way. Woo!
He has a career record of 12, 23, and 2 on the road.
His agent did well getting him that guaranteed money because he before the Vikings found out that he wasn't very good, he got them to commit, $90 million.
Well, the thing is, like, he played well in Washington at, like, home games, and he had some breakout games, absolutely.
But not against the big games, yeah.
But when it mattered the most, he doesn't perform, and that's why they signed him, so they can get him over this hump to the Super Bowl. But with this kind of record, he's not going to get there. Not going to get close.
He has been one of the more disappointing stories in the NFL this year. I think most people thought, okay, the Vikings are keeping pretty much the same team as last year. They're getting Dalvin Cook back, who might be their best offensive player, and they have a lot of good offensive players. And what we're going to do is we're going to replace a mediocre Case Keenum, and we're going to get a up-and-coming star quarterback, Kirk Cousins.
A potential elite. People thought he was going to be an elite quarterback.
Yes. And
does he still have... Wait, let me ask you. Does he still have a chance to be elite?
I think he does have a chance. But that luster has definitely worn off. 13 games in his season, 13 games in his Vikings career. I think that the allure of Cousins, like after a few weeks, you're like, okay, this team is like... gonna be really good. Oh, okay, well, they're having some problems. Okay, well, they'll fix it. They'll figure it out. Now it's to the point where it's like, okay, this team is just mediocre, and what are the reasons? Well, their defense hasn't been as good, and their quarterback play has not improved from last year. I hate to say this, but Kirk Cousins has not been an improvement over Case Keenum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Would you
absolutely.
agree with that?
Absolutely.
I'm not saying they're the same quarterback, but from production last year, he has not improved the position.
Case Keenum took the Vikings to 13-3.
Yeah, and almost to the Super Bowl. They were one game away. I mean, we're talking about a couple plays go differently in that NFC Championship game. Maybe they go in. Maybe they win. Who knows?
It's truly incredible.
Yeah, so Kirk Cousins to me is like when you're on one of those dating apps and you're like, oh, this girl looks pretty cute, or this guy looks pretty cute. If you're a woman listening to the show,
yeah,
we can all relate to this though. You're on a dating app, you see somebody who you think is pretty cute, you're like, oh, okay. Oh, they look like they're my type. And then you read a little bit about them. Oh, they like to do this. They like to do that. And then when you meet the person, you finally go on that date. You're out to dinner. You meet them at the restaurant. And in walks in that person that you're supposed to meet. And you're just like, oh, you look a little bit different from what I imagined. And then you get to talking. Oh, your personality is a little bit different than you've portrayed. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, it wasn't the worst time that you ever had, but you just felt like, man, I was really excited about this, and I just left a little bit underwhelmed. And that is how I feel Kirk Cousins is to Minnesota Vikings fans and maybe the players. What do you think?
Yeah, I can agree with you on that, but I feel like, God, I just have a feeling that he's going to make a comeback story or something like that. You know,
He's still very young. He could definitely do that.
And, you know, it's one of those things in the situation where he maybe needs to fit into the offense, maybe get used to the Vikings schemes more. I know they just fired their offensive coordinator today after this loss, but maybe that's a blessing in disguise. So, you know, sometimes a change in offensive coordinator really boosts up a quarterback.
I think Kirk Cousins can be a really good quarterback, but I do agree that he will probably need very good coaching. That's why I think, like, if he would have went to San Francisco, I think him and Shanahan would have made beautiful music together, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. But I don't know if John DeFilippo is the problem or not. We know that he was a up-and-coming coordinator. You know, he was with the Philadelphia Eagles as their quarterbacks coach, and then he moved on. But maybe that'll be the change. You're right. Maybe that will be the change that is needed for the Vikings. But as we can see, Jeff, the change is needed quickly because that playoff picture for Minnesota is looking murkier and murkier as the days go on. They're 6-6-1. They definitely still hold the last playoff spot because of that tie. Carolina, Philadelphia, and Washington are sitting there at 6-7, right behind Minnesota. And the Packers are not dead yet at 5-7-1. I mean, as silly as that sounds, the Vikings are not dead yet. In fact, they're only one game behind Minnesota. Isn't that crazy?
That is pretty crazy, actually, all things considered, how they've been playing.
Carolina, Philly, and Washington are a half game back. They're just one more loss they're the same wins, but one more loss. Since Minnesota has that tie, it's separating them. But I don't know, man. I'm not sure who wants to win the last wildcard spot. And the Vikings play the Dolphins at home. They travel to Detroit, and then they host the Bears in the final week of the season. It's a tough schedule. I mean, it's not the hardest, but it's certainly not the easiest. Mm-hmm. And then you look at a team like Carolina. I think they're just a sinking ship, to be honest with you. I think Cam Newton's hurt. And they play the Saints twice in their last 3 games. That's Carolina, including this Monday night. So, man, who wants to win that last wildcard spot? The Packers, they have the longest shot, I think. They play the Bears. That's going to probably be a loss. But then they play the Jets and the Lions. So if they upset the Bears, they have a chance. They really do to make that last playoff spot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know, man. Is Philadelphia going to sneak in? They play the Rams, the Texans, and the Redskins. That's a tough schedule. I don't think they're getting in either.
All the teams that we thought were like, oh, this team's a shoo-in for a playoff spot are now looking at more lungs of like they're not even going to make it close. Like, for example, Carolina. Like, they were looking so good not too long ago, and now look at them. They're not the same.
I think Minnesota will get in. I do. Just because they're currently in. And, I mean, I don't have any faith in any of those teams below them to win 2 or 3.
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, maybe there's a chance. There's always still a chance. Like, there's been crazier things that have happened, like the Bills making the playoffs last year. There was some craziness that happened over there. But in the terms of, like, what the most likely outcome's going to be, this looks like it's going to be not going to happen for these teams.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if that's disappointing or not. I don't know if they're going to have to grow a beard, like a playoff beard, but maybe they have to shave that playoff beard because they might not be making the playoffs. And speaking of beards, if you're looking for something to give someone to your loved one this Christmas, and they're looking, you're like, my God, shave that beard. No shave November's over. Get it done with. Harry's Shave Set might be that gift. Harry's Shave Set makes a long-lasting quality product at a super reasonable price. German-engineered blades for as low as $2 each, and it's a practical gift he'll actually use and save him money on blade refills. As a special offer for fans of this show, the GSMC Podcast Network, we've partnered with Harry's to give you $5 off any shave set, including our limited edition holiday sets. When you go to harrys.com/GSMC football, plus you'll get free shipping. This offer is for new and returning customers and is only available for the holidays. Each Harry's shaving set comes with an ergonomic weighted handle with an option to engrave, German-engineered 5-blade cartridges that provide a close, comfortable shave, foaming shave gel for a rich lather, a travel cover to protect your blades, and all in a handsome holiday gift box. Or you just want something for yourself? Redeem Harry's trial offer to experience the quality of shave before even committing. Get your holiday shopping done early. Free shipping ends on December 12th. That is tomorrow, so act very quickly. Go on to harrys.com/GSMC football to get $5 off a shave set while supplies last. Once again, that's harrys.com/GSMC football.
What happens to your decision-making when you drink? Well, after one drink, you feel confident. A few more, and calling your ex at 1 a.m. seems like a great idea. And you're pretty sure the secret to a great taco is 4-day-old macaroni. The bottom line, drunk you doesn't make great decisions. So you're risking a DUI or worse if you count on him to get you home. Plan before you party. Get home safe. Brought to you by Washington.
Welcome back, everyone, to the GSMC Football Podcast. We finished talking about Monday Night Football and the outcomes of both Seattle and Minnesota. Now we're going on to an interesting topic at hand. Which coaching job is more appealing if you had to pick between the Cleveland Browns and the Green Bay Packers? You know, not too long ago, it would be a no-brainer in the Packers, but I have to say, Cleveland might be that better option.
I'm sure there will be more jobs open here in the next few weeks, but those are the two that we know for sure are on the table. So I'll let you go ahead. You think the Browns are the better job?
I do. I really do.
Go ahead and give me your prevailing argument here.
Okay. One, they have a very young and talented team. They have a stellar defense that's being extremely underrated in the NFL, but it can make those turnovers.
Is that still one or is that two?
This is still one.
Okay. Young and talented team and defense?
Yeah. And with that defense, they were at one point, I'm not sure if they are now, though, the top turnover team in the league. They got those interceptions, they forced fumbles, they got the job done on the defensive side. B, you got a rookie quarterback in Baker Mayfield that you can develop and make your own, and he has a lot of potential.
Yeah, and he definitely looks like he's the best rookie quarterback.
Right now, yes, he does. 3, fan base is going to be behind you 100% of the way because you're not Hugh Jackson.
God bless those fans, by the way.
Yeah,
Cleveland's
seriously.
got a great fan. The Browns have a great fan base for the amount of crap they've endured.
Yeah. The loyalty that fans will get on this next head coach will be probably one of the most influential things that
They
can
should let
happen.
the fans pick. They should crowdsource this.
They pick like LeBron James or something. I don't know. I know they actually wouldn't, but I maybe leave it to see how the coaching works. Just don't pick Hugh Jackson again. It's very simple. And those are my top 3. And it feels like and also I guess you could add a fourth to this. you will have so much influence when it comes to drafting, trading, everything. You'll have almost full control.
I don't know about that.
No, okay, maybe not full control.
Because they do have a strong GM, and the way that the Browns have kind of talked about their structure is that the coach is very limited in power, actually. Just the way that
you don't think they're going to give this coach a little bit of an opportunity to
they'll let him
involved?
Coach, and I'm sure that they'll let him talk, but I don't think that his opinions on personnel stuff will make a difference, to be honest with you.
Well, I think maybe when it comes
Could
to...
be. I mean, you never know.
It all depends on who they ask. If it's like if it's the Oklahoma head coach, they're definitely going to have his perspective on some things, especially in the quarterback position.
All right. So your three... I think you have 3 good points there. They're a young, talented team. Point 2, Baker Mayfield. Point 3, fan base is pretty good, right? Mm-hmm. All right. I think the Packers are a better job. I think the Packers are a better job than the Cleveland Browns. My first argument, are you ready for it? Mm-hmm. Hall of Fame quarterback, Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is approaching the later portion of his career. I get that. But, man, I would like to be a coach and have 3 or 4 years of Aaron Rodgers. I really would. You're talking about walking into an opportunity where you have one of the best quarterbacks that has ever played who could easily be an MVP of the league next year after that. Now, will Baker Mayfield be Aaron Rodgers? He could be. I wouldn't say should, but he could be. Baker Mayfield could be the next great quarterback in this league. But as of right now, is he? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Maybe in 3-4 years, we'll see if Baker Mayfield has matured into one of the top 5, top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL. But there's no question about it, Jeff. Aaron Rodgers is one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the NFL, even today in his tough season that he's endured. Number 2, you talked about fan base. Who's got a better fan base than the Green Bay Packers?
You just said it almost, the Cleveland Browns.
They don't.
I would disagree.
Hold on a second. You might disagree that the Packers are a better job than the Browns, but you're going to disagree that the Packers fan base is not better than the Cleveland Browns. You're this is the hill that you're going to die on?
Can you let me finish? I'll say it's close. I'll say it's incredibly close. Why can't I say that's close?
No. Who has a better fan base?
I honestly think Cleveland does. They're more loyal. Are you kidding me? The Packers have been so successful for so long. They haven't experienced some downhill.
There's like a 100-year wait list to be a Packers season ticket holder.
I don't care about that. I care about, what if this team does bad? They've been so consistently good for so long. What if they had, the amount of long time the Cleveland Browns have had failure for that long? Would they still be there? I don't know. Cleveland's still there after years and years of disappointment.
You can say that they're loyal fans, but don't sit here and say they're a better fan base than Green Bay. Green Bay's the best fan base maybe in all of sports.
I'm going to have to actually keep my word on that.
You're telling me right now that Cleveland Browns fans are a better fan base. I get it. They're loyal. They've been through a lot of crap. But you're for real? You're for real.
Why are you so defensive about this?
Because I think that is the most incredible opinion I've heard from you.
Of all the things I've said.
I know. You've said a lot of dumb stuff.
Oh, be quiet.
Thank you for that.
Of all the things that we've argued about, this is the one you're going to die on?
Yeah, because this is a slam dunk. Come on.
Okay.
I'm not asking you who's a better quarterback.
Let me ask you a question about this.
Okay, go ahead.
If the Packers had 20 years of what the Browns went through, do you think they still follow those seats?
Do you think the Packers have been good forever?
They've been consistently good for a long time.
Were they good in the 80s? Were they good in the 70s? No.
70s, yes, they were.
Really?
They were in the playoffs.
Okay.
The 90s, that needs to explain itself. For the last 30 years, they've been amazing.
Since Brett Favre's been there, they've been great. Absolutely.
And let's look at the Browns in the last 30 years. Disappointment after disappointment after moving the team. They come back. The fans are still wild than ever.
I agree. The Browns have a great fan base, but you can't sit here and say that they have a better fan base than the best fan base in the NFL. I mean, that's really what you're saying to me.
I didn't. I think that the Packers have been kind of spoiled for so long.
They've been spoiled, but that doesn't mean they're not a great fan base.
I know they're not. I'm not saying they're not a great fan base. I'm saying that Cleveland has an opportunity to be the better
Pittsburgh
fan base.
Steelers have been spoiled too, and they're a great fan base. You know, I mean,
have you seen them? I've seen Browns fans stay at games when they're down 30-0.
I agree that.
And when you look at, and I've seen Pittsburgh fans leave in the third quarter when they're getting blown out. So I don't know.
All right, well. Yeah, I don't know if anyone's going to give you the point on the fan base.
I don't know. That's a steady
let's
argument.
Let's move on.
Wow. You're not giving Cleveland any amount of respect on that one.
Point number 3. The Packers are not the Cleveland Browns. And that's a point. Because the Packers, they've shown a history of winning. They've shown a history of making smart decisions. The Cleveland Browns, they're bad every year. We can say trust the process. We can say, oh, look at the young talent they've had. That might be true. And days are looking better than they were than before this year, for sure. The team is looking like they're on the rise. But we don't have any indication that this team under Baker Mayfield and these young players will ever be better than a mediocre football team. Are they on their way? I like what they're doing. Absolutely. But I know that Aaron Rodgers can win a Super Bowl, and I know that a Packers team with Aaron Rodgers and some other good players can win a Super Bowl. I know that team can be in the playoffs year to year. Have they missed the playoffs with Rodgers? Yes, they have. Most of the time, they are right there, though. They're one of the most consistent NFC teams. They, second most Super Bowl wins? I mean, we're talking about a franchise that knows success, knows how to win. And that is the opposite of Cleveland. In fact, I don't know if we can have 2 more opposite franchises when it comes to that.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say with those 3 reasons, the Packers are a better job than the Cleveland Browns. But you're still you'd if you were a coach, if you were let's say I don't know Lincoln Riley, if you were Urban Meyer, and both teams came calling, you'd choose Cleveland, huh?
Well, yeah. I think Cleveland is just the better option just based off talent alone. And if you team that can win now, in my mind, I think Cleveland can win now more than Green Bay can.
Interesting.
You can be successful now against a team that's not that's been just struggling. Even with Aaron Rodgers playing this whole season, they still have been struggling. There's no excuse for their downfall right now.
Mm-hmm. And they fired their coach.
Last year they've been downfall because they didn't have Aaron Rodgers. I get that. Now they've had Aaron Rodgers this whole season, still struggling at best.
Would you say, let's say all things are equal, like in terms of we don't know who the coaches will be, but would you feel confident betting that the Browns will have more wins than the Packers next year? Would you feel confident betting that?
Yeah, I could make a bet on that.
Interesting.
I would definitely think about it.
Well, if anybody out there has an opinion, what's your Twitter?
At Jeff Malinoff.
At Jeff Malinoff or at Mark Hella Gets It. That's mine, Mark, M-E-R-C, Hella, as in California, gets it. Because he gets it, get it? Anyways, hit us up. Let us know what you think. What's a better job, Packers or Cleveland? I think they're both good jobs, though. I will say that. So even though I disagree with you, I think that they're both very attractive. I do like the prospect of having Baker Mayfield. I think that him and that young team, because you made a good point about their young talent. I agree there.
If you're offered one of those jobs, you're taking it, is basically what you're saying.
Yes, I think they're both really good jobs. In a year where there might not be the best jobs available, I think these two will end up being the 2 standout jobs. Tampa Bay might be a place that might be available. Denver, Arizona, maybe, but I think that
Arizona has a rookie coach, and so does Detroit.
They could move on, though. There's been rumors that they could.
I don't think they're pulling the trigger this early. I think that's too premature.
Mm-hmm.
That would just be a bad management decision if they fired their head coaches after their first year. There was one thing with the 49ers in firing Chip Kelly because there was just never chemistry between him and the players. But you got to give rookie coaches an opportunity. Mm-hmm. These guys never been head coaches before, so give them a chance here.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so what do you say we go to a break?
Yeah, sure. When we come back, we'll talk about any other news and corps about NFL stuff or college football stuff. Who knows what it's going to be, but we'll be right back right after this.
Check out the show built around the women of MMA. From the UFC to the extreme cage fighting, we got the fights covered.
Listen.
It's the Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast. The latest news of upcoming fights, discussions of previous matches. Join us as we talk to and about the biggest names in women's mixed martial arts, past, present, and future. When it's the women's fight game, you know where to listen to. The Golden State Media Concepts Women's MMA Podcast.
Welcome back to the final segment of the GSMC Football Podcast. We are on the final stretch. Say I didn't say final countdown that time.
Thank God.
Just like final countdown. Do-do-do-do. Do-do-do-do. Had to. Anyways, welcome back. We're going to talk about Bill Belichick and his questionable decision to put in Rob Gronkowski instead of his
Gronkowski.
Probably think people his real name, but instead of his best defensive player, which I don't know why you would sub him out for Gronk. Just keep both of them in.
Mm-hmm.
But again, he took full responsibility, which you should as the head coach.
Mm-hmm.
And his job is 100% secure until he's dead or decides to leave. So he could have taken that blame. He could take the blame of beating a puppy to death, and he would still keep his job.
Wow.
Yeah.
On camera or not on camera? Because that makes a difference.
Partially on camera, and then it goes off camera, and then he kills it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That became a gory scene in my head right there.
You're welcome.
Okay, so, he takes the blame for having Gronk in the game over Devin McCourty. What was he thinking there? I don't know. He said, they were expecting a long pass. Okay, but how long was that pass going to be? They snapped the ball on their own 21-yard line. Like, come on. So, anyways, I think he did the right thing there, taking the blame, taking responsibility, because there really is no excuse to have your best safety off the field while your tight end is on the field trying to tackle a fast running back. That's a weird scene. So, good for him. Did you hear about Alabama? They had 4 first-team All-Americans. Isn't that something?
Yeah, that's, not surprising.
Yep, they were the only team. Tua barely missed. He could have been the 5th, but he is the all-second team. So, a shout-out to Alabama for just dominating. Again, they seem to always dominate these awards, these accolades, every single year. Moving back to the NFL, we're talking about Spencer Ware and Melvin Gordon. They both missed practice for their teams, respectively. We know the Chargers and the Chiefs are playing each other on Thursday night. That's a huge game. I don't know if you've looked at the standings or looked at what's going on, but the Chargers can win this division. And if they win against the Chiefs have been looking a bit shaky lately. So,
well, I mean, it's since the loss of Kareem Hunt. It's one of those things in where you lose your best defensive or offensive player, or your most would you say most explosive or your most deadly 1-2 punch, like your dual threat, right there.
Mm-hmm.
And so losing that kind of talent is one of those things in where that's going to affect the team regardless of who replaces them.
Mm-hmm.
So how I see that is I'm wishing them the best of luck, honestly, because it's hard to because they all of them have a lot of, except for Kareem Hunt, have kind of a class act about them. Like Travis Kelce is a class act. Patrick Mahomes, besides him putting on ketchup on steak, the horrible human being, is a class act.
That's when their season changed.
When he admitted to putting ketchup on steak like a monster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he should have kept that to himself. But anyways, it's one of those things where this team is destined to be something, but losing such an impactful player is such a disappointment. Not to your it also loses faith in your other teammates. What if other teammates let you down? It's like Kareem Hunt let his team down.
Who do you think has the advantage, though? Obviously Kareem Hunt's not on the Chiefs and Melvin Gordon is still on the Chargers, but since both players will probably not be in this game at all, absolutely one won't, but most likely both. Do you think that favors the Chiefs or the Chargers?
Favors the Chargers. They have the momentum right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Eckler is a good player. He might not play either, though. They're all banged up. These teams are banged up. Tyreek Hill is hurt. It's a bad week to have a Thursday night game for both of these teams, in my opinion. But the game will happen. Both teams will need to find ways to win. Anything else you'd like to add for football today?
No, I think we're good.
All right. So check us back Thursday. We'll go over Thursday Night Football again. We'll break down the Chiefs-Chargers in full detail. We'll also take a look ahead. Now that we are entering, week 15 now? Man,
has it already been 15 weeks of this?
It's almost over, It's kind of sad.
Then this podcast is going to get harder as the offseason gets started.
Gosh, we're going to have to, think about stuff. We're going to have to, use our brains.
Way to make us sound terrible.
We're going to have to use brain power. That sounds exhausting.
I already used my brain for college. I didn't think I had to use it for the real world.
Mm-hmm.
But again, thank you for joining us, and we will see you Thursday. Have a good day, everybody.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.